good. Annie, my dogs. Okay, what I'm doing here is I was going to show you guys how to make time lapses. It's pretty easy. Yeah, bud. You can use just about any camera that'll take video. The higher resolution, the better. As it turns out, if you have a camera that shoots 4K, which has got really 4 high definition screens on it, you can process some pans and zooms in after the fact. However, even the cheapest 4K camera is kind of pricey. You can get the same effect with shooting a continuous stack of images. There's some other advantages to that too. So any camera that shoots video, you can just speed up the video and you've got a time lapse. If you do a pan and zoom though on say a 1920 by 1080 video, your resolution will go down the more you zoom in, which might be okay if you're making a video for a small handheld device or a little corner of a web page or something like that. If you want a high definition video with pan and zoom, you either shoot 4K video, which also is problematic if you're doing a very long time lapse, like a day or two. But continuous shooting, you can make a movie out of a stack of images. You put your camera on a tripod and you continuous shoot. Now, as it turns out, the little GoPros, when you press the shutter on these guys and you can adjust the interval between the images, it just sits there and clicks away till it runs out of card or runs out of battery. That's really cool. However, these things have a fixed focal length, so they're only good for really wide angle stuff. And you also have to process them later for the fisheye effect, but that software is free, so that's not a big deal. Other cameras, like this one here, this is a Canon A2500. It has a continuous shooting option, not a time-lapse option, but a continuous shooting option. So if you hold down the shutter, it'll continue to take pictures. I can't remember if it's got an adjustable length or interval between shots. Well, if you mount it on a tripod, you don't want to stand there with your thumb on the shutter all the time. So I glued on a little piece of plastic at the top. I don't know if this is going to focus. And so when I put a rubber band on there, it holds it down, and this rubber band I'd have to double up. And of course, when you make the video, you're probably going to have to clip out a few frames while you're doing that. And that's all there is to it. So 3 of these cameras have these little pieces of plastic. I actually used a drone propeller shaft, motor shaft insert that was the wrong size for my drone motors. But anyway, oops, the button came on. So that's really all you have to do. As it turns out, some cameras have the capability to adjust the interval between the pictures. For clouds and things, about 1 second. That between frames gives you a 30 times speed up. You get really nice cloud movements that way. Half a second, 2 seconds, okay. Some of these just have a continuous setting as fast as it'll go. And for those, you can obtain a little bit of speed control by going into aperture priority mode, using a high f-stop to slow it down, or a lower f-stop to speed it up a little bit, but there's not a lot of adjustability there. Not a big deal, really. You can edit the speed in your video software later. This one here, even though it's a nice big fat camera, it's really not that good for time-lapse stacks. It doesn't allow you to set the interval except over a very narrow range, and it'll only take, I can't remember, 500, 1,000 pictures is all, and it stops. And that's too bad. But there's another camera I have that is actually making this video, so I'm going to take a picture of that with this one, and it will actually do time-lapse sequences for you. Let's see, turn the video on. Okay, yeah, the one I'm using in my hands is a Panasonic FC70. It's got a really good optical zoom, 60x. It's great for wildlife, not so good for time-lapse. This camera here that we're looking at, that's my most expensive camera. That's about an $800 camera. It does shoot 4K video. And it also has the time-lapse mode that's really convenient. But you don't need that, really. You can get by without it. I've taken a lot of nice time-lapse without that camera. Although I would like to have 2 or 3 of those. And it's got 16x optical, which is pretty good. And it's got a 1-inch sensor, which is 20 megabyte frame size. So that's just a little bit about the cameras. It really doesn't matter much which, well, I guess it matters some which camera you use. But you can get started making some really cool time-lapse with just basic equipment and some video editing software. You can use even free video editing software to make a time-lapse from a stack of images or from a movie clip that you shoot. Sunrises and sunsets, half hour to an hour is about how much movie you need, or at about 1 second per frame you need about, you know, 4,000 to 10,000 images, something like that. Takes a little while to process them, but even Windows Movie Maker Live, you can make a pretty nice little time-lapse with that software. It's free. It comes with Windows 7 and 8. I imagine you can probably use previous movie makers as well to make some basic time lapses. So now that we talked about cameras, of course you need a tripod, a good steady one. Some of the cheap Targuses, I don't like. They got too much wobble in the head on a windy day. That's not good. I have a set of 3 Sunpack 6600s. I got a Walmart. They're like $50 a piece. I got 3 of them because I keep misplacing the plates. They come with extra attachment plates, and I can have all the cameras fitted with the same plates. The other thing about making nice time-lapse or general movies is, instead of having one really nice camera, you're better off having several cameras, setting them up on tripods, and then edit that footage to switch back and forth from the other cameras. So, you know, it seems like we all have a limited budget. An adequate camera, 2 or 3 adequate cameras, is probably better than having one really fancy camera, if you're doing video anyway. So, okay, I'm going to cut this clip off, and then I'll start up the screen capture on the program. I use Snagit for that. just as sort of a side note, if you want to do some how-tos of some of your activities. And I'll show you how easy this is to make a basic time lapse, and then some of the more advanced methods. I have on this particular computer Windows Movie Maker Live, which is free. Corel Video Studio X7, I think. That's $100 and some change range. It does process 4K video, which even if you're not shooting 4K, if you're shooting image stacks, you want to be able to process 4K, and you'll see why later. And then I recently got Sony Vegas Pro 13, and that's about a $300-400 video editing package. It's got really a lot of creative flexibility, a little more difficult to use, pretty good audio features, and you can buy a lot of additional plugins for it. You can get more plugins for the Corel as well. I've also used Avid Studio and Pinnacle. They're okay. The workflow is kind of clunky, and I'm irritated that people who put together programs actually never use them, it seems like. And having to use too many clicks to do something is a waste of time. And the dog just bumped the camera. Bud, go away! Anyway, we'll get to the video processing side. The other thing I did want to mention, though, is I never connect these cameras up to the computer. I always take the cards out, and I take the cards out, I put the data on the computer by going through the directory system, usually DCIM for MP3 files. AVCHD is a little different in that there's a folder structure for those. Some cameras shoot with that, and there you have to find the folder called stream, and there'll be some number with a .mt, I think. Click on that and you can import that in. I might show you that later. Anyway, I try not to make this too long, but it's really a lot of fun to make these time lapses, so I hope you all give it a try. And I'll cut this clip off and we'll move on to how you work with the software. Okay, to take the video files off the card, I've taken the card out of the camera and put it into the card reader, and they're usually under DCIM, that folder that says private. If you're recording in AVCHD, you need to navigate to the stream folder there and select those, but in that case, copy over the whole directory structure. This camera is set up for MP4, so it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to start this copy, and it'll take a while. These are 4K movies, and so I'll pause the screen capture for a bit, and when that's done, I'll get back to you. Okay, I'm recording the screen again, and I have 3 different video editors started up, so we can switch back and forth quickly. Let's start with something easy. We'll take Windows Movie Maker, and I was messing with this earlier, so let's start a new project. And we'll say no. I don't use this hardly ever. So I had to play with it a little bit, so I kind of had some idea what I was doing. So the first thing you want to do, let's say you go out and you shoot a movie, and we're going to find a little clip I did up by Jelm, and the Panasonic F70 doesn't really do so well with the continuous images. So I shot this in 1080p movie, and so we'll bring that in. Now, it's going to take a while for it to process all this, I think. Well, maybe not. I already did it before. So here's the movie, and that's all well and good, but it's gone too slow. This is real time, and to make this a time lapse, we need to change the speed, and usually about 1 second per frame is good for clouds. So we look here. This is a free software. It doesn't give you a lot of variation, but 32x would be about 30 frames per second. So or 1 second per frame. So let's try that. Immediately you see the movie got really short. Let's see if it tells us. Yeah, it's a minute long now, and it was fairly long before. So we press the button here, and you'll notice it's kind of jerky, and that's because this preview really isn't a finished movie. It needs to be rendered out. Then you should get a nice smooth video out of that. So let's do that. We'll see here that there's not a lot you can do with this in terms of the format you use, but if find a place. So you can upload this right away if you want, but let's say we just want to save this clip. We can do that now. We can do things like add a title. See, it put a title on there. There's some effects you can do on the title. There's also just some themes you can apply. Something like this. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Well, I don't really see how it's doing the pan and zoom. What's this one do? Well, anyway, you can mess around with this stuff a little bit and get what you want. You can do quite a little bit with this thing. You can only work with one track. You're fairly limited, but as you can see, you get a time lapse. Let's go ahead and render this out. And what rendering means is this sort of preview thing is replaced with a fully processed movie, and we'll save movie, and we'll go for a high definition display. There's not a lot you can do. Custom settings, you can make some adjustments here, but if you try to do 4K, it won't let you. So this software will not process 4K. It's too bad, but it's free, and you can do quite a bit with it anyway. And it's good to get started. One thing about this particular program is it kind of forces you to keep it simple and basic, which really is oftentimes the best thing to do. A lot of fancy effects and everything oftentimes just detracts from the subject. And if you're doing good video, people are going to focus on the subject, not your edit. I don't know, what should we call this? We don't have any choice on the file format either here. This is Windows Movie. So we'll call this Movie Maker Simple, and it's not in the right place. We want this in, I'm in the wrong hard drive. I have too much content to keep track of it all. Is it in here? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good place to put it. I should be able to find it later. Or I can put it in the project file for this tutorial. Maybe that's better. So let's put it here. You'll notice I organized my content by date and location or some sort of thing. And I'm going to end up with a variety of clips I need to put together to make this tutorial work. So we'll stick this in here. And this is going to take a minute or two. So I'm going to pause both the screen capture and I'm going to pause the audio record too. I'm using external audio record. I don't know how well that'll work. Might have to do the audio over. One thing about editing video is you're going to have to learn patience. There's a lot of calculations, and there's times when you just have to wait. You might as well go do the dishes, have a cup of coffee, call grandma, do something else, and then come back. Is this recording? I think so. Okay, it looks like it finally got done. It took a little while. When it finishes, you can look at it, and we'll see how it looks. Sometimes you don't like how it looks, and you need to do it over again. A little bit of snow going on here. It's not too bad. I don't know what happened with the pan zoom option, but like I said, I don't use Movie Maker much. I'm kind of spoiled by the better software. But using the camera that you probably already have and this free software, you can make a basic time-lapse movie without a whole lot of effort. It just takes a few minutes. I think this sequence took about a half an hour. The Panasonic FZ70 will only do about 28 minutes of video before it shuts itself off. Then you have to start it again to get another one. And you know, Windows Movie Maker gives you the basics and a few effects, but you're usually better off not caving into the temptation to use special effects. Simple and clean keeps the viewer focused on your content. So I don't know. I think I'll go ahead and close out the screen capture video, and we'll move on to I don't know, maybe the next software. See how this works in a little more expensive software. Although there's really not much advantage when you're working with a video, just speeding it up. You're kind of limited on what you can do. So I'm going to shut off the audio recorder, and we'll get all these files saved, and eventually I have to put all this together. Okay, in this segment, we're going to try to make a time lapse using Movie Maker with a stack of images collected from a continuous shoot of some kind. So first we'll start Movie Maker, and then we go up here and go find some photos. And oh, it's in the right place. I was experimenting with this first. Turns out this particular camera splits the images into groups of 1,000. Might be able to change that, changing the way the card is formatted. Allocation. I forget, it's allocation blocks, something like that. Anyway, these each folder has 1,000 images in it. Seems like a lot, but when you think about a video with 30 frames per second, it's not that many. So we need to somehow get these into the video editing software. And so we'll select them all. Hold down the control key, click the last one. I think I made a mistake here. Oh, should have been shift. There we go, shift key. And then I just click open here. And it may take a minute to do this. Okay, so now the situation requires that I select all of these things, and then I have to go into video tools, and see the duration on each image is 7 seconds. That's terrible. That won't work. But this software only lets me use the shortest time frame is 1 second. I need 1/30th of a second. So what to do? Well, okay, let's make these into a movie, and then we know how to speed up a movie. So we'll do that. So now it should play this pretty fast. These images were shot at 1 second per frame. So this is how it looked to me sitting in the car. Hard to perceive any motion. So anyway, we'll go ahead and render this out. And we'll make a high definition display. And where are we going to put this guy? I think okay, time-lapse video how-to. We'll call this movie from stack. And we'll go ahead and save that. Now this is going to take a little bit of time, so I'll go ahead and shut the recording off here until this is done, and maybe go fix some breakfast. Okay, looks like it's finally done. I think that took 15-20 minutes. We're not going to bother with playing this. We'll try to keep this short. We now have a movie that is too slow. We've already seen how to do that, but we'll do that again. You have to edit the time, but first you have to bring the movie in. So let's see, where do I do this? So we'll do a new project. No. And now I have to go find the movie we made, and I think I put it in. This really irritates me. Windows 7. This. Explorer doesn't update very fast. Okay, so I think it's this one here, and so we'll open that and see. Now notice down here it's preparing video 1 of 1. It says this is going to take some time. It's making a video proxy, which is a small resolution video, so you can see your changes here. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll wait for that to finish. Patience, my dear, patience. And I have to keep track. I'm making movies while I'm making movies, and you know, for an old guy that can be complicated. So that's that. Okay, I think we're back online again, and we've got a preview over here that seems to work. So now all we really need to do is change the speed, and for this case you can see there's really not a big advantage to shooting an image stack for this event, the time span of this event. You could do it just as well with just shooting a movie straight off and save you this step. However, now you have 1,000 high-resolution still images to choose from if you want to pick a nice photograph out of that stack. The other advantage to shooting stills is if you want to put a long interval between frames and perhaps do a time lapse that encompasses a day or two or a week, you're going to have to do it this way, and maybe play with the speed to get the effect you want. So as before, now we need to render this thing. Before we do that though, we can see what we can do about applying a pan and zoom. I've tried this before and it really is kind of lame what you can do in this software. Now, this timeline, the way they design the software is kind of cheesy, but sometimes it's good to split your movie into segments so you can apply different effects. We're going to do that just to give you an idea of what you can get out of this, and that makes it shorter. Yeah, there's not much you can do with this either. Okay, so that's about as far as we can go. Let's go ahead and split this into a few segments. Right click gives you access to some of these timeline editing things. Okay, and put another one there, another one here, maybe one here. So in this software they give you some animations you can play around with, and over here's your pan and zoom. There's some other ones. Usually most of this stuff makes your video look like hell. It just, once in a while it's of some value, but the fade in and fades out and things like that that we don't really need. There's almost no control on these presets. If there is, I don't know how you do it. You know, I don't think that took. Did it? Let's see. Don't seem to. Okay. Let's try this. Do I have that selected? It says pan and zoom none, so that's just flat not working. Let's try this one. I got this to work. Maybe since we've sped it up, it won't do it. Let's try some of the others. Okay, that seemed to have taken. Let's try another one. And another one. And we'll try another one here. I don't know. It's kind of a waste of time. But just to show you what you might be able to do. After you experiment with these things, you might find something that's worth doing. So anyway, we applied some pan and zoom to this. It's going to be lower resolution. These presets, I've noticed in Live Movie Maker, are really gentle on the pan and zoom, so you probably won't see much pixelation. Let's go ahead and render this out. And if you really want to get fancy and do nice pan and zooms, you really probably need better software. Which, you know, for the price of a few tanks of gas, you can get to that point. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save this as a high definition. And I'm not going to bother with titles and all that stuff, but you would probably want to on your project. Movie Maker, I have to keep track of what I'm doing here. You end up with a whole lot of files. You usually need to get external hard drives to hold all this stuff if you want to keep it. Okay, so again, same drill. This is going to take a while. I'll pause this movie and stop the audio record, and when this is finished, we'll see how it turned out. And that's about it for doing this in Movie Maker. And this is about all you can get out of this software as far as I know. If you happen to use this a lot and know some better tricks, please leave a comment below the video for the benefit of others and me, although you're probably not going to catch me using this software very often. But it's nice for people to get started, particularly if you don't have money to spend. It's just on a lark, you want to do a time-lapse to see how that works. So, okay, I'll shut this off and shut up. Okay, we're back again, and we can play this. Of course, the quality won't be quite as good as the original movie because this is a movie of a movie. There'll probably be some pixelation, but we can play it anyway. And so we're getting a little pan and zoom in this, which adds a little interest to an otherwise static camera setup. So, you know, maybe it's not so bad. And that's with free software. So I'll go ahead and tack the full movie on the end of this thing, and you get a chance to look at it. And I think that's going to be pushing an hour on the tutorial, so that's probably as much as we want to do for now. So I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll worry about more sophisticated software in additional videos. So hopefully I'll get maybe another one done today before I have to go back to work tomorrow. So thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful for you. Once you get started and you kind of get an idea how this all works, it's pretty easy to transition to other software. A little bit of a learning curve. It's a nice activity. Also, a tripod that mounts on your window, you can get those at Jack's in Fort Collins. That's nice when it's cold and you want to stay in your warm vehicle and still have access to your camera. Okay, just little tips here. So, thanks for watching, and I hope I get to see some of your work posted on Facebook to my Facebook friends, and I get a little tired of seeing the same memes pop up all the time, and maybe we can get some people posting some original content. So many pretty things around the Laramie area, and some of the vacations you guys take. Some few time lapses would be fun to watch.